So believe it or not, I've never actually made like a dedicated question and answer video here on the channel. So we're gonna give this a try today, see if it's something that turns into a series, possibly doing this on the occasion. If so, make sure you leave your question down in the comments below, and if I make a follow-up Q&A video, I'll be sure to answer them. And then also let me know what you guys think of the name Solid Answers for this little series, right? Get it? Solid bricks, solid answers. It's kind of cringy, but I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. All right, let's get into the questions. I'm grabbing my iPad here. I put a community post out earlier today asking you guys what your burning questions were, and I've got some pretty good responses. Grab my glasses here, which, believe it or not, I do actually have to wear glasses, specifically with Lego building or on the computer, anything close up. That actually started around when I was building Daro. That's when I was like, I cannot physically see anything up close anymore. I don't need them when I'm driving. All right, so getting into the first question, this comes from Jamin Grove 1127. I probably butchered that name, but he asks, how has LAN membership changed your buying habits? Do you still look for and buy sets on sale since you don't do armies anymore? Are multiples only used for MOCs? Okay, so first off, yes, I am part of the LAN, the Lego Ambassador Network. What I will say is, of course, it is very nice being an ambassador. One of the biggest perks is that you do get review sets, which is free Lego, which is nice. And so obviously that tends to mean I don't have to buy Lego. But on the other side of things, believe it or not, guys, I'm spending anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000. I know it's a pretty big range, but it really depends on what I'm working on. But $10,000 to $20,000 a year on Lego. And that could be, honestly, that's mostly parts, mostly for things like prior to this Geonosis, but it could also be sets. Like, for example, I had to buy 5 Coruscant Guard gunships. It's like $500 right there. I had to buy a UCS Venator for Geonosis as well. That's another $600. You can see how this adds up very quickly. To answer the question, I do buy sets out of the thought of maybe I'll make a MOC of this later. So for example, maybe there's like some type of X-Wing that I really like and I could see myself utilizing that years down the road for X, Y, and Z MOC, then I'll do so, and I'll especially be looking for that X-Wing on sale. I'll pick up a few, and I'll do that on the occasion with certain sets. I do like to collect a lot of battle packs because there's always a case where I'll need a lot of figures later on for whether it's a Clone Wars battle or it could be Rebellion versus Imperial, so I'm always looking for that. So yes, I am still buying sets. I'm still obviously looking for sets on sale. I'm also buying multiples, but I'm also buying for the thought process of utilizing it in something later on, not just the current MOC that I'm working on. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, next up from Ken Wabi, he asks, how do you feel you have changed as a builder and content creator throughout the years? All right, so that's kind of a loaded question, getting a little deep here already at the beginning of this Q&A. Let me answer this in 2 ways. First off, as a builder, I definitely feel like I've progressed. If you just go back to Kashyyyk, right, that started about 2014 is when I was working on that MOC. That was over 10 years ago now, which is crazy to say. If you look back at Kashyyyk, I feel like there's a notable quality difference between Kashyyyk and Geonosis. Don't get me wrong, I love Kashyyyk, but I do think like build-wise, like Geonosis just kind of blows it out of the water. There's of course something very nostalgic about Kashyyyk. You know, I hear it from you guys when I meet a lot of you at conventions. It's the first thing a lot of you will bring up is like, dude, I love your Kashyyyk. It's like the best. I remember watching it week by week and all that, and humbles me to death, and I love hearing that. But I do look back on MOCs like Kashyyyk and even like the follow-up Scarif, and I'm like, I could do that better. And especially if you go back further in my channel to the early 2010s, late 2000s, when I was first starting on YouTube, all the way back in 2008 is when I started my channel. I would say things have significantly progressed as a builder, right? I was building little 2x4 brick clone bases, the lattice pattern. Oh goodness. Yeah, so a lot has changed. Honestly, that all just comes with time and experience. You know, you learn as you go. It's pretty much as simple as that. In terms of being a content creator, progressing that through the years, you know, again, it's very similar to the building aspect where I'm just learning as I'm going, you know. If you look at my videos and what I was doing just 5-6 years ago, there's quite a stark contrast to the editing style, to how I was filming, to how it even sounds compared to today. So I've been improving, you know, upgrading equipment, but also learning new skills of how to use the equipment. I think that's a thing a lot of people forget is, yeah, you could buy the next new fancy camera or the next new fancy iPhone, but you really need to learn how to use it properly. Those creative skills go along with the expertise of using the equipment. They're kind of hand in hand, and On top of that, there's the creativity, right? Just coming up with video ideas and all that. So all of that has kind of progressed over the years. You know, there's a common saying that like it's about the journey, not the destination. I can kind of see that because you're always trying to improve yourself, right? Self-improvement. All right, so next is from Garitol Paul 153. He asks, what new Star Wars content has you most excited to mock build? I'm not gonna lie, with Andor Season 2 coming out in just a week or two, I am so unbelievably hyped for that show. I would love to build something off of it. I'm gonna be paying very close attention to Andor Season 2, seeing if there's anything that really pops out. I have been back and forth debating whether to build the prison scene right from Season 1. I don't want to spoil it for those of you who haven't watched Andor, and if you haven't, please just stop watching this video and go watch Andor. It's literally the best Disney Plus show. It beats out The Mandalorian, I'm sorry. But yeah, Andor Season 2 by far has me super hyped. I would love to consider making a mock. It really just kind of depends on what it is, what the feasibility, how recognizable it is. There's a lot of factors, and how much do I have a passion for the scene or whatever it might be. And then of course there's also Tales of the Underworld, right, with Cad Bane, Asajj Ventress. That was kind of a surprise new mini series that's going to come out on May the 4th this year in 2025. That's going to be intriguing. I'm going to be curious and definitely looking to that. Now, speaking of Andor, I do want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Whatnot, where I actually picked up some sealed Rogue One Lego Star Wars sets like the Battle of Scarif, like the TIE Striker, and directly from Andor, the only Season 1 set, the gunship set here, the Ambush on Ferrix. All three of these sets are going to be given away this weekend on Sunday. So this Sunday, April 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be hosting my next Whatnot stream where I'm going to be auctioning off hundreds of LEGO Star Wars figures, tons of Rogue One specific figures. And because we're auctioning off more than just Rogue One, I went ahead and added another set to the giveaway. So I've got a sealed Utapau Troopers Battle Pack from 2014. So yeah, it's not just these three LEGO Star Wars sets. There's a fourth as well. Plus I'll have some poly bags, tons and tons of giveaways this Sunday. You're absolutely not going to want to miss out on this. Now, if you're new to Whatnot, it is an app that you can download with the link down in the description. You sign up and you can get a $15 credit that you can use during my live stream or someone else's. Again, you have to be present and live. It starts at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be giving away all these sets randomly throughout the stream. It's going to be a banger. And then, of course, we're going to be auctioning off all of those LEGO Star Wars minifigures. Again, tons of Rogue One specific figures just in celebration of Andor Season 2. Thanks again to Whatnot for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to some more questions. Okay, so next, Brickscope asks, what is your next mock? That's easy. Your Urbana. It should be here any day now. It's taken a little bit more time. It's really just filming. The mock's done. All right, next up we have Alexis Powers 007 asking, do you think there'll ever be a limit to how big your mocks get? What do you think the limit is in gray base plates? Obviously, I would love to build as big as possible, but I've actually thought about this question before this was even asked in this video. I've considered and calculated that it is possible to build at least a 64 gray base plate mock in my current studio setup. For reference, Geonosis in its current size is 48 gray base plates. So I can go even bigger and still make it work within the space that I'm still using, which is kind of insane. Technically, I can even go further than that if I like clear out more space and rearrange things. But yeah, at least 64 gray base plates, and maybe that mock will come sooner than later. All right, next up is from Art Trooper Studios 12. He asks, would you ever consider doing a tutorial on how to film your build series? What camera and equipment you use, lighting, and certain shots you get to tell your story in the video. Thanks and great work as always. Well, thank you, Arc Trooper. I love the little heart there. So I do get this question on the occasion, and to be honest, I don't think that many of you are actually interested on how I make the videos. I get compliments all the time of like, David, the video quality is so good. You know, this looks great, that looks great, the music's good, the editing was great, the quality and all that. Glad to hear that, but I don't get too many people actually asking how it's done, the behind the scenes. But I totally get it because I'm the type of person to also watch like the behind the scenes, the making of like the movies and stuff like that. I remember I watched every single making of part for Star Wars, especially on the Blu-ray edition for the prequels and the original trilogy. I love understanding how things are made, you know, all the development process and all that jazz. So I totally get it. But I don't know if there's enough people where making a whole video talking about every every little thing that I do would be interesting enough to a lot of you. Maybe just a few hundred, maybe a few thousand at max. But I'll give you a little taste of what I use, right? So I have 3 LEDs around me. I have one above me. I have one to the side. I have another farther away. 3 giant LEDs. These are by a company called Aperture. They also have a sub-brand called Amaran. I use both. They're great lighting products. I have a Sennheiser shotgun microphone right here, right above the camera, and that's being fed right directly into the camera as well. And then the main camera, I have a couple, but the main camera I use is right here. So this is my baby, okay? This is what a lot of what gets filmed here on the channel. Like all of the mock videos, all of the review B-roll, all the in-depth portions, this is what I'm using to film it all. This is the ultimate setup. It's taken years to kind of elevate and get to this point, but I've been using this for the last 3 years. This is a Canon R3 body with a 24-105 f2.8 lens. I've got a servo attachment here with the zoom rocker, so it gives me an electronically controlled servo zoom, so it looks like a camcorder. Love that, but really what this camera produces is just some of the best 4K I've seen out of any camera. But I'm Canon specific. I love them. You know, I've been using their products for at least a decade now. But honestly, Sony, Nikon, doesn't really matter what the camera brand is. They're all really good nowadays. But I'm just going to say this right now. This is completely overkill for YouTube. You should not ever consider this for YouTube content. It is really cool having the big fun equipment. Like it is awesome having this type of stuff. Like I genuinely love camera equipment. There's something called GAS, right? Gear acquisition syndrome. So yeah, I've got bad gas. But yeah, this is awesome. For those of you starting out on YouTube, I would recommend the, honestly, Canon just came out with a new camera. It's called the R50V. That is literally 90% of what this camera is. And you can put a very nice like 28-70 f2.8 lens on that, get the pretty much exact same results out of this camera at a significantly cheaper price than what this thing costs. That's only going to cost, you know, $600 for the camera body, maybe a couple $100 more for the lens. This is getting into thousands and thousands of dollars. And for those of you who like scoff at like, oh, $600 for a camera, no thanks. For those of you starting out, honestly, an iPhone works just fine. A lot of videos on YouTube absolutely do not need stuff like this. This is complete overkill. I just really enjoy it. At Shatterpoint asks, outside of Lego, do you have any other hobbies / passions? Well, that kind of follows up the last pretty well. Yeah, I love camera equipment, love collecting all this stuff. Like I spend way too much of my free time researching and understanding every little nuance of how something is better than the other. You know, is this camera better than that? Is this lens gonna produce the results I need? Does the minimum focusing distance work for the Lego that I need to get up close to and get those close-up shots of that minifigure head? Like, I get into the weeds about that. But I'm also a big, I mean, if you can't already tell, I'm a big Apple fan. So I have an iPad, I have Mac Studio, I've got an Apple Watch, iPhone, pretty much every normal Apple product. I did have a Vision Pro. I actually returned it because I didn't like it. That's actually, I made a video about that. I made a Lego related video with the Vision Pro. That's a video that still needs to come out. I still need to edit that video. But I'm also a big Apple fan. I've been following Apple since I was in middle school. Those of you who have ever heard MacRumors.com, I go on it like at least once a week now, but back in middle school, that's all I would do in my free time at school is I would just go on the school laptop and just type in Mac Rumors and see what the new Apple product is. Huge nerd, basically. Cameras, tech equipment, Apple stuff. I'm getting into cars now. I love off-roading, of course, Lego. So yeah, I have plenty of passions outside of just Lego. I love Lego to death. That is probably the main hobby and passion of mine. But I also want to say photography is another big thing, right? I have the big fancy cameras, but I also love to take photos. That's actually what I went to school with. That's my bachelor's degree is in fine arts. It's in photography and filmmaking. So that's kind of a background and a little bit more about me that you might not know of. So yeah, huge nerd, honestly, guys. I'm a huge freaking nerd. Oh yeah, I love movies, obviously. Movies, TV shows, animation, any of that stuff. Love it. All right, so at BricksFilms-Lego asks, you ever plan on doing the live building streams again? We need David X Jedi Bob back. You know, me and Brendan were talking about this what was it, last month or 2 months ago now at Atlanta BrickCon, we were talking about the live stream. I don't think they're going to come back. I think that was just something for the time. I would love to do them again, but honestly, I just don't have the time. Like, there's always something for me to do, whether that's building a mock, reviewing a set, or something else happening behind the scenes that you guys aren't even seeing. There's a lot always happening behind the scenes. But yeah, it just, I don't think it would work now. But it was a cool thing to do back in the day. Brennan and I are still very close friends. We love hanging out with each other when we get a chance at like a convention. Hopefully I'll see him again soon. We've been talking about doing like a Disney World trip or something like that. He'll definitely pop up in a vlog whenever I do those. Like, you'll probably see them if I'm ever traveling. Brendan usually shows up one way or another, or Jedi Bob. He actually changed his name on his YouTube channel. All right, so the next question is from @Slippy V12. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Maybe not, probably not. What's the hardest part about balancing YouTube with your personal life, and how do you manage it? Okay, so this is actually quite a tough question, and honestly, it's just been time and experience and life kind of thrown at you to understand how to balance these things. It's not always obvious. You just kind of have to learn as you go. That's honestly a lot of things in life. But ultimately, I would say it was kind of exiting college when I realized, okay, I actually need to like hang out with my friends, hang out with my significant other, see them, but also make my YouTube videos. Because prior to that, growing up, I started my YouTube channel when I was in middle school, 17 years ago. I started the channel in 2008, which is kind of crazy, and I've been making videos ever since then. In middle school and high school, I would get home and I would just go straight to my YouTube channel. Most of the time was spent building or talking to my Lego friends all over the world. Skype was a huge thing back before Discord, Uvu, if you remember that. It was a different time for the Lego community in the early 2010s to mid 2010s. And so it was easy to just kind of spend all my free time doing Lego YouTube outside of school. But once school was done, once I got my bachelor's degree in 2019, and I was just doing YouTube full time, which I didn't even think it would get to that point, but it just so happened to land perfectly. Also, the pandemic happened, and it was kind of, in a way, it was a good thing for what I do. Don't get me wrong, the pandemic was bad, but everybody was at home. Everybody was watching YouTube. So it was kind of the perfect storm for me to like really push this as hard as I can go. That's when I was doing the Mandalore mock and really diving deeper into reviews and getting more serious about that here on the channel. And that's been the past 5 years. And it has been a journey in those 5 years of like being outside of school and trying to make sure I'm socializing, to make sure that I'm actually getting out into the real world. It's easy for me to just sit in here all day and play with the plastic, but ultimately it is important that I go out, enjoy things. I have a wonderful fiance. We're getting married later this year. We spend a lot of time in the evening together. I try to make sure that if I do have to work into the evening, that I have a break so I can hang out, talk to her, basically put a timer in your head of like, okay, it's time to stop. It's time to go do something else, and we'll come back to this later. That's ultimately what I've learned over the years. All right, so that's all the questions, guys. If you have some, let me know down in the comments below. I'll try to do another Q&A here soon. If this actually takes off, we'll see how it does. I'm curious what your thoughts on this are. And you guys can get a little bit more personal. Feel free to talk outside of just Lego. If you have questions about me, if you have questions about, I don't know, anything that I talked about today, follow up on those. I'd be happy to talk more about it. All right, with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks again to Whatnot for sponsoring the video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.